Okay, Rabotai, here we are, and we're going to start today in our books in the Tzurba Merabanan. We are on page 73, I believe. Okay, page 73. Hilchot Hadlakat Nerot. The halachas of candle lighting. Okay. I always like to say, it used to be a couple. I think when it turned the year 2000, the New York Times ran a future newspaper, as if in 100 years or 1,000 years from now, there'll be a newspaper, what it would look like. Mm-hmm. And on the paper, one of the things they had was candlelighting time. Mm-hmm. So someone asked them, why do you have candlelighting time as if in the future? They say, well, it doesn't matter where or when, Jewish women would still be lighting candles on a Friday night. So having the candlelighting time is always important. So let's take a look. What is the nature of this minhag, mitzvah, chova of lighting candles? 73. So today we're going to look at two things. If you take a look at page 473, two pages before that, 71. So usually before the start of every halacha shir, he gives you what this is what is this shir going to deal with. And today we're going to deal with the top two topics: the reasons for lighting Shabbat candles, and how many candles should one light. Is there a minimum? Is there a maximum? And next week, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll get into what do you use for lighting and where should one light. So let's start on page 73. And here the Tzurba Rabbanan brings the earliest source that we have for lighting candles on Friday night. So Masechet Shabbat, Chavhei Amud Bet, it says, Amar Rav Nachman, Bar Rav Zavada. Va'amr Amar Rav Nachman, Bar Rav Amar Rav. Hadlakat Ner B'Shabbat, Chova. So it comes from the Gemara. The Gemara says that it's a chova, an obligation. Oh, wow. It's an obligation to light the candles on Friday night. Rashi, in source number 2, comes to explain the nature of this obligation. Says Rashi, chova, what's it a chova? Kivod Shabbathu. In order to honor Shabbat, you gotta light candles. Candle lighting is a form of honoring Shabbat. Why? What's the reasoning? Says Rashi, she'en seudah hashuva. There is no important seudah, no important meal. Elo b'makom or ke'en yamama. Unless you're in a place that has light for your food. Okay, think about it this. A lot of times, it's not just what you eat, but how it's presented, right? If you give you good food, but it's all chopped up and pureed and it's all over the plate, there's no kaif in eating it. You know, right? The part of the enjoyment is to be able to see the food. Now, you think about some of those romantic restaurants, they have it very dim. But even though it's very dim, you still have like a tea light or something on your table that you can see what you're seeing, what you're eating. Eating in the dark or not seeing what you're eating, right, is not enjoyable. So says Rashi, the honor of Shabbat, in order to enjoy Shabbat, you have to be able to see your seudah. And therefore you need the candlelight. It's an obligation in order to honor Shabbat. To eat your meal with light.
Where is Rav Nachman Bar Zabda? Where is the source for this?
That's the Talmudical source. He has it as a tradition.
Where's his source from? This was his. I'm just curious. Where does this come from? In other words,
where's his source? You said where's his source? So you can always ask that. Where's his source to the source?
No, I mean they don't just make.
Okay, so we'll get into
presumably it. It's somewhere from the Torah or maybe like a smachta or something. No. Or maybe not. I don't know.
It doesn't seem to be. It seems to be, at least what we know right now, is the Gemara is the earliest source.
This is the source. This is the earliest source.
This is the source.
This is him.
Yeah. This is
it's
it.
It's a das yachid.
Well, apparently it's done. It's a chova.
No, meaning the Gemara, I'm saying.
Yeah, it's his opinion, yeah.
It's not the rabbis. This is his.
He's bringing it down as a chova. It seems that everyone took this chova.
And they accepted this.
Yeah.
Like opinion, right?
Huh?
His opinion, right?
Well,
no, it became halacha. It became the obligation.
No, I'm saying
he made
that was his.
So I don't know if it's his opinion, whereas more if it was him bringing down what was being done, right? Because sometimes a statement in the Gemara doesn't mean it's his opinion, but it could be this is what people were doing. So he's coming and he's telling you that Hadlakat Ner B'Shabbat, people were lighting the candles, and he comes and he tells you chova. That's an obligation. It's not just time to do it. It's not just a minhag. It's actually a chova. That's what probably he's coming to say.
I hope that in today's shiur, if you can maybe touch upon this, is what, in other words, why is it that what was, I just want to understand, why is it that what was once done then with the absence of light, electricity, could be an issue.
Okay, so we're gonna get.
That we should do right now.
All right,
when
so
there's so much light.
You're skipping 10 steps. All right, so he's very good.
That's always like interested in me.
Yeah. So we're gonna get into that. We will get into that. Okay, so we came out first that we have an obligation to light candles. Rashi says a reason to light candles. What's the obligation for? In order to have kavod Shabbat and enjoy your meal. Tosafot on source number 3 makes a distinction in the word chova. V'yesh shiratzin loimer de'ein levarach hadlakat ner midikrei leichova. Some say you don't have to make a bracha on the Shabbat candles. Why? Because it's called a chova, and we have something else that's also a chova, and on that we don't make a bracha on. What's that? Kedamrinan mayim achronim chova. We say mayim achronim chova. And no one goes ahead and makes a bracha of mayim achronim. Shekisham tzivanu al mayim achronim. We don't do that bracha. So the ain't toinin bracha. Rabbeinu Tam says that's not correct. Deloitte david mayim achronim. When we say mayim achronim chova, that word chova, obligation, is different than the obligation by hadlakas neros. Why? The reason why we are obligated to wash our hands mayim achronim, right, says Tosafot, right, is that because there was one time there was sodomite salt that was from Sodom that was very powerful, and then if you would eat that salt and then touch your eyes, you would come to put yourself into danger. Now, la halacha for us, we do it regardless if you use sodomite salt or not. Okay? We still, as Kabbalistic reasons, we still use it all the time and we still do it. Now, Ashkenazim will go with this Tosafot. A lot of them don't do mayim achronim anymore because of this. We don't use sodomite salt, so they don't do mayim achronim. So the Rabbeinu Tam of Tosafos wants to say over here is that don't compare the two chovas. The chova mayim achronim is really because of the danger of the salt. Of hadlakat neirot, he chova. That's a real obligation. It's an obligation shel mitzvat oneg Shabbat. Okay? So very good. So Rashi said kevod Shabbat, the honoring of Shabbat. Tosafot says I'm lighting the candles. Why? For oneg, to enjoy Shabbat.
So according to Tosafot, the chovot mean two different things?
According to Tosafot, the word chova depends on how you use it, the context of the word chova. That's what he says, A. But now, to come to the candlelighting, what's the chova? Chova is oneg. What would be the difference if it's for oneg meaning delighting in Shabbat or for the honor of Shabbat? So perhaps you would think, let's say I had a candle already lit before Shabbat. I have a 72-hour candle and I lit it Friday morning. Okay? So now comes Friday night, it's still lit from the morning. I have a light. Is it oneg Shabbat or kavod Shabbat? Well, for oneg Shabbat, it works. For oneg, for enjoyment, I need the light. I have the light. Kavod Shabbat, to honor Shabbat, I'm lighting the candle for Shabbat.
Right.
So perhaps if you hold with Tosfot, all you need is to have a light on. Okay? But right away, says Tosfot, the all near Rabbeinu Tam, even though Rabbeinu Tam says it's oneg, that it's for delight, Shimiya ner mudlak ve'oimed, if it was already lit and standing, shitzarech lichvot v'lechazor v'lehadlik. You would have to shut it down and put it back. Even though he holds it's for oneg, which you would think it's okay if they lit before, even Tosafot says you have to light it for Shabbat. So maybe they're not arguing. Maybe oneg and kavod are two parts of the lighting. There's the honor of the lighting, and then it's the usage of the lighting in order to be able to enjoy it on Shabbat. In fact,
so
the
what's
Rambam.
The answer as to why we don't say a blessing on mayim achronim chova?
Because the chova there is an obligation for safety.
Okay, so
not a mitzvah to do something. It's
so when it says obligation for mayim achronim, it's not referring to a mitzvah. It's referring, hey, you gotta do it. You want to save your life.
Save yourself, right? That's a Rabbeinu.
If you want to save your life, hey, guess what?
Right.
You're obligated to do this.
Right. The chova is a different context. Now the Rambam in source number 5. He brings down both lishanot, both languages, when it comes to lighting candles. In the first one, in number 5, first let's read this beautiful Rambam. Look at this whole Rambam. Rambam says, Hadlakat ner b'Shabbat einu reshut. Imrotza madlik v'imrotza einu madlik. It's not optional. You want to light it, you don't want to light it. No such thing becomes candlelighting. And it's not a mitzvah that I don't have to do unless I have to do it. Meaning, like, unless it comes my way. If I want to wash my hands for food or something like that. Eila chova. It's a real obligation. Ve'echad anoshim, and men. Ve'echad noshim, and even women. Either or. Chayavin. They're chayiv liot b'tehen ner daluk b'Shabbat. They have to have a lit candle on Shabbat. Even if they don't have food, right? They have to go and collect money for candle lighting. Why? Shezeh b'chlal oneg Shabbat. It's for the delighting of Shabbat. Read the next piece of the Rambam. The Rambam writes further. You have to make sure it's set up in your house on Friday. Mipnei kavod Shabbat. Ner daluk b'shulchan aruch u'matam tzad shekol elu l'chvot Shabbat hein. You have to prepare a candle, and it has to be l'chvot Shabbat. So the Rambam brings it. Lighting candle is for kavod Shabbat and Onik Shabbat. So it seems to be that there's 2 reasons to light candles.
According to the Rambam, do you have to say a blessing before the Lekanot Shabbat?
Sure.
Where does it say that?
I
don't see it in the Rambam.
He doesn't say that you have to.
He doesn't. Or is it a different Rambam?
It might be in a different Rambam, but no one argues the bracha.
But according to Rav Nachman Bar Zavda, how do we see from there that you have to say bracha? He just says
we're saying that
he says Adlakat Ner Shabbat Chova. He doesn't indicate anywhere that it's got to be said with a blessing.
Right. But he's saying the chova is that it's an obligation that the Chacham put into place that needs to be with the bracha. That's the understanding of the Rishonim.
Oh,
that the chova, like Tosfot understands chova. None of the Rishonim argue on that, at least not to my knowledge.
So in other words, we're learning that when he said his statement in the Gemara, it's a given, and he's talking about saying also a blessing.
Right. The chova itself is a rabbinic obligation that comes with the bracha. Right. Okay. Now we mentioned kavod. We mentioned oneg. What really is the difference between honoring Shabbat and delighting in Shabbat?
These two complete each other. Complete
each other. But how would you define honoring versus delighting and owning on Shabbat? So the Rambam, in source 6, the Rambam says, Ezu covered. What's covered? Mm-hmm. This is to wash yourself up, your hands, your face, with hot water on Erev Shabbat. Mm-hmm. It's to go and get nice clothes and put them on Erev Shabbat. What is oneg? This is what they said, to have good food to eat on Shabbat.
So one is before Shabbat, and the other one is during Shabbat.
Very good. That's what the Bir Gra in source 7. The Gra says that beferish. Look at the last line of the Gra over there. V'ritzonu loymar onig hu b'Shabbat atzmo. Onig is on Shabbat itself. V'chavod hu be'erev Shabbat. And kavod Shabbat is what you do before Shabbat. So what you do in order to prepare for Shabbat, that's honoring Shabbat. What you do on Shabbat to enjoy Shabbat, that is Onek Shabbat. That's the way the Gra, based on this Rambam, makes the definition of what's kavod and what is Oneg.
One of the tools that bring enjoyment of Onek Shabbat is kavod Shabbat by
right. Very good. And now that we know it's kavod Shabbat, we know it's Onek Shabbat, now we're going to throw in a third reason of why we light candles on Shabbat.
So the first reason was
kavod.
Kavod.
That was Rashi.
That was the light in the house.
And in order to see your food.
Good. Second reason
was to delight. Onek Shabbat.
Whatever that means.
Right.
Okay.
To enjoy Shabbat.
Enjoy. Third.
Okay. Now we're going to see right now. Now there's another Gemara.
So even
Amar Rava, Shitali, Ner Beito and Ner Chanukah, Ner Beito Adif. If a person has to choose between candles for Shabbat or candles for Chanukah, he takes candles for Shabbat. Why? Mishum Shalom Beto. It's for Shalom Bayit. Ner Beto v'Kiddush Hayom. If you have lights or Kiddush, Ner Beto Adif. You get the candles. Mishum Shalom Bayit. It brings Shalom Bayit at home.
So you don't fall down, huh?
Oh, very good. Very good. Look at Rashi. Rashi says in source number 9, because if you don't have lights, then people are going to be sitting in the dark. And it's going to be distressing. Mitztarin. They're going to be not happy. Okay? In fact, in source 10 in the Gemara Masechet Shabbat, it brings a pasuk in Eicha that says, "My soul is removed far off from peace. I forget prosperity." What does this mean? Rav Hoa says means that if it's missing lights on Shabbat, and Rashi explains, hadlik uv'makom she'ein ner ein shalom. Someone will walk and trip and fall. So you have to have light in the house for shalom bayit. So people are going to be calm when there is light.
Presumably, when this was during the time of the Gemara, you also needed light every other night of the week because shalom bayit is a very important mitzvah, or it's very important to have shalom bayit. How are you going to see your wife if you have darkness? So maybe there should be a mitzvah light every night.
No, but then you're able to light it whenever you want.
Very good.
By other days of the week, you're able to light it whenever you want.
Right. There's here
you can't do Shabbat.
Right. Yeah. So you have to do it beforehand, and it's a mitzvah to make sure that you have it. Now.
But by halakha, half an hour is it on? You did the obligation.
What do you mean? No.
The light.
No. That's only Hanukkah.
Okay, what about Shabbat? It's supposed to be 24 hours?
We're going to see. We're going to see. What I can tell you is as follows. If someone lights the candles before Shabbat, then they leave their house. They leave their house. Mm-hmm. They go to eat Sa'udah somewhere else. Okay. They come back home and their lights are no longer on. They may have bracha levatala. Because those lights have to have been used or enjoyed on Shabbat. Right. You have to have been there on Shabbat to have enjoyed that light.
But this proves the kavod answer.
Meaning that it's for enjoyment.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's not kavod if you just light it and leave. Maybe the part of the honoring is that it's there and you're using it for Shabbat.
But who's using it though? Let's be honest. With the lights on.
Okay.
With the lights
on. I hear you. You're still going back on that.
Maybe
you're right.
Maybe it's a b'chalav because you're not enjoying it.
You're not
enjoying it. But you're enjoying it. Whenever you look at the lights.
I'm not looking at the light.
No, he's saying good. Listen to him.
You looking at the light when you're eating?
Whenever you make the bracha,
listen to what he's saying.
You're supposed to look at the lights.
When you say what?
Okay, so I'll tell you. Shalom. Shalom. You're skipping steps, but you're saying very good. But I'll give you what the person can say nowadays is that first of all, every light increases light. Plus, they say it's the ambience of the candlelight, meaning that the candlelighting brings a certain ruach of Shabbos into the house.
Reminds me that Shabbat.
Right. If I walk into the house, I don't see the candles. Something's wrong. Something's misplaced.
What about
and so it's
is it light off the candle?
They light in the room which you're staying.
Right.
Right. So for example, if I have my siblings over, they're going to go into my room. They're going to light in my room.
Right.
And then they're going to be sitting in the living room the entire time. They're going to go back at night to sleep, and they didn't really enjoy from the light.
So they had to have been there at some point during the light on Shabbat, and have enjoyed from that light. That's the minimum that they need. Mm-hmm. Okay. We're going to get into that. This is all going to be brought into
enjoying of what of this candle. Enjoying of what?
Enjoy its light.
Okay, so I give you LED light.
So maybe you couldn't use. LED is more problematic, but fluorescent will be less of an issue.
If it is matter of the light, I give you lots of light. Yeah. Candle give you this table.
Okay. So who said you can't use a fluorescent light bulb for near Shabbat? We didn't get there yet. We're going to see it, or let's see when it allows it. We'll go there. Okay? We'll go there. But you have to take it step by step. Guys, this is a process. A lot of this is building information.
We're climbing
You're climbing.
This is Regal Park, Rabbi. This isn't Bayswater, all right?
Don't jump from first to
all right. Okay, so the Aruch HaShulchan. The Aruch HaShulchan in source 12, he says that perhaps the kavod and onig are applicable at the same time. Maybe he writes over here, when you light candles in the place where you eat, that's for kavod Shabbat, right? And the other rooms where you have light, that's for onig Shabbat. Maybe that's the difference between kavod and onig. It's really both. It depends where you have the light. Okay, the Mishnah Berurah says that even though that you should have light in other rooms, miu habracha tevarach al haner shevemakom achila. You should still say the bracha in the place that you're going to eat. Okay, so if you have the option of lighting anywhere in your house, you should light in the dining room, in the place where you're going to eat, That's where the ambience is. That's where the it feels that you're having Shabbat and stuff like that. Again, his point where if you're a guest in someone's house and how do you light? Well, that's a different story we'll get into shortly.
So,
And the Ramah says the same thing in source 14 on page 78. Ve'ikir hadlaka teluya b'ner shemadlikin ala shulchan avaloi b'shar ner shebebayis. So the main lighting is that is found in the dining room. Yes.
The shulchan.
On the
Ashkenazim, they do it most of it.
The what?
They put it on the table.
So you don't have to put it on the table. The makkah machila, not necessarily on the shulchan.
Like in the room.
Yeah. We would suggest that, especially if you have children that are running around and stuff like that, and it's very likely they knock it off and on the table, the moving things, passing stuff. Yeah.
No,
So,
even not children.
so I always say,
Move the
this is one of the statements I like to tell people is that, I tell myself, I tell my family, I tell the shul, is that just because you're doing a mitzvah doesn't mean safety comes out of the window. Okay? There's safety. That's a mitzvah also, and a very important mitzvah, because if you can do the mitzvah safely today, you can do another mitzvah tomorrow and the next day. Sure. But if you do one mitzvah unsafely and put yourself in a makom zakana, and then something happens, has shalom, then you're going to be in problems. So therefore, you always want to make sure that the mitzvah happens correctly. Now, so just to review what we said up until this point using this book of Laws of Shabbat. First of all, both men and women have an obligation to light Shabbat candles on Friday. One reason, Oneg Shabbat. One reason, Kavod Shabbat. One reason, Shalom Bayit. So those are the three reasons. So remember to come out. 3 reasons why we light candlelights: Oneg, Kavod, and Shalom Bayit. Okay. Let's see what else. Just interesting here to note. We're going to see this shortly again, is that the mitzvah of Lakot Nerot brings a lot of schar, a lot of reward. People have Tamidei Chachamim, children and in-laws of being Tamidei Chachamim in zchut of lighting candles. It's a special important time for the woman to daven at that time, or the person who's lighting the candles to daven at that time. And the minhag is to also give some coins to tzedakah before lighting the Shabbat candles. That's a very important, it's a minhag, it's a nice thing to do, it's not obligation, but it's a good thing to do. A person should get into that. Okay, now we're moving on to how many candles should one light? Okay, so before we move on to this, let me just see what I wanted to bring from here. On page 81, in the other book, okay.
81?
No, not in your book. You're on page 79. This is Laws of Shabbat, Sefer Hayot Amim, and it's a Sephardic book with all of the halachot of Shabbat. I would suggest you get it if you can. Okay, he writes over here that women are held more responsible to the lights of Erev Shabbat. We're going to get into this, why they are. They took away from the... the Midrash Rabbah states the reason that women should specifically light the Shabbat candles is in order to make an atonement for the sin of Hava. Hava's sin, she brought not darkness into the world. So the ladies light the candles in order to bring lightness in the world.
Time-bound mitzvah?
Yeah, but they're bound to that mitzvah. They're bound to Shabbat, even though Shabbat is Zman Grama.
No, the lighting is...
Same, it's based on Shabbat. They're mechuyev in Shabbat. The same way mechuyev in Pesach and stuff like that.
The both,
and since they're mechuyev in the assays of Shabbat, so they're also mechuyev in the loyta assays of Shabbat, and they're mechuyev in everything when it comes to Shabbat. Now, what is important here is that it brings down that the men should prepare the Shabbat candles for the wife. Okay, it's brought down in the name of the Arizal. Okay, so this is a big one. And Ben Ish Chai brings it down in Parashat Noah that the men of the house should set up the candles for the wife to light. Okay, this way they're both being mitaken.
Can he make his kids a shaliach?
Possibly. All right, shliach shalom kavod. Say, all right, you can use that.
So yeah, have me in mind when you set it up, okay?
All right, 15. Source 15 on page 79. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Echad Anoshim Chayven Liyot Bebetehem Ner Dolik B'Shabbat. Afin lo Ma Yachel Shoyel Al Pesachim V'Lekech Shemen Umadlik Esaner Shezeh Bechlal Oinik Shabbat. Who basically what the Rambam said before, and he's saying that you have to get candlelight. It's a chova. You must get money for it. You must have it. Now, the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah in source 16 says, first of all, when the Shulchan Aruch says you have to get money to buy this, it doesn't mean that if you have no money at all, it should be candle lighting versus food. No, Mishnah Berurah says. You should get, if you have only money for candlelights or food, you should get bread for Shabbat. This way you can fulfill both the mitzvah of Kiddush and the mitzvah of the Seudah. But if you have a little bit more money, more than just for bread, then the next thing you buy is the candle. Now, says the Mishnah Berurah, and how many candles is this? All right, first he gives the order. The candle for Shabbat comes before him buying any other food. As though although meat and other foods also include on Shabbat, the candle takes precedence due to Shalom Bayit. Okay? And then he writes to Miu, Meshum Ner, Dai Ner Echad Lechud. One candle is enough. So the minimum candles you have to light on Friday night is one. And then if you only have enough money, so small money, buy one candle and buy the rest other foods. So you have bread, buy one candle, and then get other food, says the Mishnah Berurah. So the minimum lights you have to light on Friday night is one. Now, the common custom, as we'll see, is brought down from the Rishon, known as the Kolbo, in source 17 on page 80. And he brings down in Midrash Tanhuma. The Midrash Tanhuma says, Matzati komi the Shabbat kafel. Everything on Shabbat is doubled. Right? Shnei kivasim. You bring up two sheep for the Musaf offering. Mizmor shir liyom HaShabbat. Mizmor shir. Two forms of singing. Liyom HaShabbat. Lechem Mishnah. Zachor v'shamor. Right? Just like you had in the story of Shimon Bar Yochai and his son that came out of the cave, and they second time around, and they saw that person walking around with the Hadassim. He says, "You have two. Why do you have two? Echad zachor, echad shamor." So it's always two. V'nira, says the Kobo, shaminig al zeh lahadlik shnei nirot. Therefore, the minhag became to light two candles. So there came the minhag to light two candles based on this midrash of everything should be doubled on Shabbat.
Can you light more?
Ah, very good. So let's see.
What's it?
Can we light more? Source 18 says the Shulchan Aruch. Yeh zahir la'asot ner yafeh. You should have a beautiful candle for Shabbat. And some say to make two wicks. Echad keneged zachor ve'echad keneged shemor. So you should have two candles, two lights. Says the Rama.
2 weeks sounds like it's
You're saying 2 wicks from one candle?
yeah, that sounds like it's an Havdalah candle.
Okay. Not necessarily a Havdalah candle, but a candle with two wicks. Okay. As long as you have two lights, maybe that's what he meant. Okay, possibly. Says the Rama, V'yochlin lahoisef lahadlik shloisha or arba neiros. So here he says candles, 3 or 4 candles. V'chein nahagu. So says the Rama that the custom in Ashkenaz was to light more candles. Mishnah Berurah says that there was minhagim, v'yesh nohagim lahadlik sheva nerot. There are those who light 7. Kineged shivat yemei hashvuah, the 7 days of the week. V'yesh asara kineged sete dibrot. There are those who light 10 for the 10 commandments. Well, another famous custom, not necessarily Sephardic, but Rav Mordechai Yelov does mention in his sefer. And he writes, Yesh nohaged lahadlik kimispar anshe habayit. There's a minhag to light per the children in the family. Okay? In addition to the 2. Most people, the common custom is to light the 2, and then to light additionals based on the amount of children that are in the house.
So, are we counting the first 2 like Abaim, or are we counting the
First 2 is usually Zachor v'Shamor.
And then after that,
Right.
let's
Right.
Oh,
2
really?
parents, 3 kids, another 5.
Well, that's a lot.
Usually they don't put in the parents. From the way I understand, they just put the children.
Yeah.
They don't put the
First
parents.
season.
Your parents are putting for you, right? And then you put for your kids, and it goes further like that. Most people don't put for themselves; they put for their kids. If they do that minhag.
Probably do the same thing.
What?
You do the kids thing.
Yes, we do the kids thing as well. So the next source, 21, he brings the source for this. So this is a earlier sefer Likutei Maharich, and he writes, "V'hineh minhag hanashim v'asher yulad lehem ben ubat mosifin ner echad." They add one more candle to what they were lighting. B'samach ledavar hatam mishum damrim tzach Shabbat b'perek b'melikin the v'schar shemar b'beneres the Shabbos havelei benin v'chatanin rabanan. You'll have rabbis, great Talmidei Chachamim, come if you light candles on Shabbat. Oh, that's true. I'll light more candles and make more sure I'll have better Talmidei Chachamim, both sons and son-in-laws. Lekach b'kol pam sheyod lahem benu bad mar ben eresh shayidei zeh yesku levinyan lebanin v'chatanin Talmidei Chachamim. So the schut for the children to Talmidei Chachamim is to be lighting more candles. Now, what happens? A guy, Baruch Hashem, has a nice big family, all right? Say 10 children, okay? And now he's invited to someone's house, okay? So someone was brave enough to invite him with his 10 children. And he comes there, and the wife wants to light candles. So now she's going to say, what? I need 15 candles, 10 for this, 1 for that one for this one, 2 for the Chov Shamor. It's a lot of candles, all right? What to do? So says Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata, Rabbi Neuwirth says, Bamed Devarim Amurim. When is this said that you light all these extra candles for everyone else and everything else? When you're lighting in your house. Okay?
You made a good point. Just bring your own,
Okay, you could do that. Technically, you could do that. And I've seen people do that. They bring their own. I've seen that. If you're not sitting in your house, then you only light the 2. You light the common custom of 2. And he says, what? And they don't have to even be such big candles that she usually lights at home. When you're outside the house, you can go back to the minimum of the common custom of being 2. Okay?
2 days bringing the food is more important than is more convenient than bringing the candle, because candle is so cheap.
But some people are not prepared for 15. So a family that only uses 2 tea lights every night or every Friday night. And you're coming with a big family and 15, 20 lights. It's a lot of lights.
No, food.
I understand. Bring the food more important than the lights, but I hear you. In the laws of Shabbat, he writes, what about, does she have to make Hatarat Nidarim?
Why?
The woman, she's said she was going to, she's made it a chazakah. She's been lighting every week 15 candles, and now she goes away for a week and she's not lighting 15. Does she have to make Hatarat Nidarim? What does he write over here? If a woman wants to begin to light more candles than she's required, she should state that she's only doing so bli neder. Okay? That's number 1. She should say, I'm doing it bli neder, then I'm going to light more. Okay? If a woman is in a situation that she only has 2 candles, such as she's in someone's house for a guest for Shabbat, and she usually lights 15, she's permitted to only light 2 candles for that week. She does not need to do Hatarat Nidarim, because it's not like she's going away from what she wants to do, lighting 15, but rather she's in a place right now that she doesn't have the ability to light that 15, and therefore no Hatarat Nidarim is required.
But if she would, then she would do it. That's why it's allowed.
Yes. If she could do it, she would do it. She just doesn't have the ability at this time to do that.
Rabbi, when a woman that's like 6 or 7, let's say for...
Why not 15? Go ahead.
Whatever.
Yeah, go for the big number.
So I'm just wondering, she never made a neder that this is what I'm going to be doing. She just.
But sometimes you don't have to actually say a neder in order to become
if I let's say if I learn let's say Misad Shaim every day for half an hour, and then one day I don't, did I break a neder?
So I'm not going to get into the Dharm right now, but you will be.
Because there's certain things I want to keep consistent, so not have to worry about.
You should always say bli neder when you start something like this.
When I went to yeshiva, I used to do Daf Yomi.
Yeah.
When I went to yeshiva, I had difficulty keeping them up. So I walked over to the yeshiva and said, "What should I do? Should I take off second seder to do Daf Yomi?" He said, "Ask me this question privately. I can't answer in front of other people because it's a tough question to answer because it's a chazaka which you make. It counts as if it's part of your everyday to day life. Now you're going to stop doing it. It's as if you're taking away.
Is this only spiritual things or physical things?
Physical things too.
If I eat a donut.
For example, if someone, I don't know about eating something in that sense, but not eating something.
And I stop.
Not eating something. For example, if someone didn't eat rice on Pesach every year, right? Can he start eating rice on Pesach the following year if he wants to? He might have to make a Nidarim. There's different things that if a person does certain things or doesn't do certain things.
A could be made even if it wasn't expressed.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in this case, since she is not wanting to do it, but rather she just is not able to do it, she doesn't need Hatarat Nidarim for that case. Okay. Now we come to one last topic here for tonight, and this is a scary topic.
Uh-oh.
This topic is what happens if a woman forgot to light. Okay? Forgot to light. So, the Sefer Maharil in Hilchot Shabbat, his niece asked him a question. She forgot about a woman who, she don't know if she forgot, but she says a woman who forgot to light a candle for Shabbat. What happens? So he said, in the bold you can see it, she should be careful to add a similar amount to which she used to light until now to each mitzvah lamp, which means she should double the oil in the in the candles. So whatever she used up until now, she needs to double it. That's what he says. Okay, Sefer Ma'aril says you have to add similar amount to which you used to light until now and teach that mitzvah lamp. Now the Ramah, people are more familiar with this Ramah on page 82, source 24. He says, "Isha shechacha pamachat ladlik madleket kol yemea shelosha nerot." If she missed, she has to add a candle.
The following Shabbat, right?
Not just the following one.
Forever.
Every
from now on?
Shabbat.
From now on?
From now on.
This is halacha.
Okay.
Just like
I thought it was just one.
No, not just 1 week.
You missed one Shabbat, so it's one.
Yeah. Look what he said. Madleket kol yemeya shlosha nerot. Her whole life from now on. So someone's gonna come to her house and say, "Well, I got 3 there. What's the third one for?" Oh, I forgot 1 week, right? So now just start to add 20. You missed 20? No, I'm just adding candles.
So if she normally lights 6, and then she forgot one. She has to do 7?
Just to add a 7th, yeah. And for the rest of her life.
She goes off the derech and she's not lighting for weeks.
That's a good question. That is a good
And
question.
what if she gives birth after? Like it would be a 7th baby, then she would have to add one more?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it's already 7.
כי יוכלן להוסיף על דבר המלחמה כנגד דבר אחר, ובלבד שלא יפחד. Okay? You're always allowed to add, but you're not allowed to detract. So if you're accustomed to do 7, it's not easy just to go down to
Do
2.
we follow this penalty?
The question is,
Ramah brings us down.
the question that we would follow this penalty. The real question is, does this knas really exist today? Because of your earlier question,
Oh.
I have light, right? What's the reason of this penalty? Let's take a look. All right, let's go in.
You know, you have light.
So, add one or double the candle used to do.
So the Sefer Ma'aril says to double the oil. The Ramah said
If you double the oil, now we have a candle, we have to double the candle.
the Ramah said not to double. The Ramah said to add a candle. That's his
Is
penalty.
this halacha? This is just like a recommendation.
No, this just seems to be the halacha. Yeah, this seems to be the
Only
halacha.
1 week if she missed.
We're going to see that it may not be applicable this penalty anymore. Okay.
No, but is it only 1 week if she missed?
For
She missed
every
only.
time
Let's see, she missed 2 weeks. Then she has to light 2 extra candles every week.
And 3 weeks? 3 weeks.
Light 3 extra candles every week. So if you go to somebody's house and you see 40 candles,
There's the reason behind it.
yeah. But then again, it could be that the person just lights a lot of candles.
It's not going to
Okay.
go fully because they already lost the shalom bayit.
Oh yeah.
Without the candle.
Okay. Now the Mishnah Berurah brings an important idea here. He says that this is only true if she didn't light, but if she wasn't honest, it wasn't her fault. She couldn't light it. Something happened. Her toddler was jumping up and down.
No.
The baby was making something.
She gave birth and
She gave birth. She was in prison. I don't know. Whatever happened, she was stuck somewhere. Whatever it is, right? In such a case, it's not her fault. And therefore, she does not need to add on every candle every week. She doesn't need to add on, right? It's only if it is her fault. If it's not her fault, then it's no, not a problem. So now, the next source, 26, the Shalos Tzurba Melamed La'oel, he writes of a case that happened to him, that came to him. A woman forgot to light the 2 candles. The husband put on the gas, the fire on the gas, on the stove. Okay? And he put that on. He put on 4 of them. Okay? He put on the whole stove, 4 candles, 4 fires. Okay, so now they had light on Shabbat.
Was covered, no?
It was there, covered, not covered, whatever it was. You had the light. There was some gas lights on. Okay, was that enough, or is just she still get penalized for not lighting? We're getting there. We're getting there.
Electric light. I mean, the same question would be with electricity.
Right, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. So he writes over here that the truth is there was light, right? He says it's clear that one fulfills the mitzvah of Shabbat candles with gas lights, right? The Beit Yitzchak writes the woman recite the bracha on gas or electric lights. We'll talk about electric lights soon, but here already the Beit Yitzchak says you're allowed to. It's also clear if someone else lit for her, she does not need to add, right? If the husband likes the candles, that's it. You have the candles at the house. But he says towards the end, since she didn't do it, we should still give her some sort of knas, and we have to do something about it. Therefore, she shouldn't do it anymore. The Rav Wozner in Ishas Shuvah Shevet Levi was asked about someone forgot to light candles, but the electric light was on. So that's our question. The electric light was on. Does she have to do it or not? Right? The whole thing here is Shalom Bayit. Remember the whole thing, we light the candles, Kavod, Onik, Shalom Bayit. So you have electric lights on. It's Kavod. You can see your food, like Rashi said. Onik, I can enjoy my food by what I see. Right? And Shalom Bayit, I'm not walking around tripping. So I have all three done by the electric lights. So the Rav Wozner says it's very hard to answer this question. He says the reason why it's so hard to answer this question because there's only one source, one Rishon, the Maharil, who talks about this penalty. No other Rishonim bring down anything about a knas if you miss lighting it. So therefore he says, I don't know what to tell you. There's no Talmudical source about this penalty, and there's only one Rishon that mentions it. There's no other Rishonim that talk about it.
Is he Ashkenaz?
Who?
Who would make the penalty?
I'm say from Maharil. Maharil Siegel.
But what about
No, 'cause
people who miss
Probably.
one day of what's it called? They miss a day of tefillin.
Okay, let's not get into mitzvah day at Tefillin. Let's 1 second. So he writes. He says, I don't know what to tell you about this. Now, Chacham Ovadia in the Hazon Ovadia. Let's take a look at source 28. Source 28, Hazon Ovadia says, Bizmanenu, Shemadlikim Hashmal Ha'ir Kol HaBayit, where we light the electric lights for the whole house. Im Shechachala Hadlik Nerot Shemen, or wax, or oil. And a tzricha, lehosif kalal. You don't have to add any lights. Nowadays, where you have electric lights, Shiyotzim Yedei Chova, Benerot HaChashmal, you fulfill your obligation with these electric lights. We're going to see that you could possibly even say
Turn them
bracha.
on?
If they're on.
Oh, they're on.
If they're on. Okay?
She didn't turn them on. Her husband
Right.
turned them on.
Okay? She'en kan mishum. There's no problem over here of the disturbance of peace. And the bracha, even if she didn't say the bracha on the electric lights, if you could say bracha on electric lights, the bracha is not me'akiv to the mitzvah or to the result that you have of kavod, onig, and shalom bayit. So Chacham Ovadia is very clear. Chacham Ovadia says you have electric lights at home, and you didn't light the candle lights, you don't add to the lights. You also have to go back to the fact that there's not. It's just one source that says about this penalty, and it's not a Talmudical source, it's not a Geonic source, it's a one Rishon, and we just look at Rabbi Ribiat. Rabbi Ribiat in his 39 Melachot in source 29, he writes, according to some poskim, the penalty also does not apply if any candle at all was lit. If there's any light in the house somewhere, that's it. Either by the woman herself, any others who were home before Shabbat. Why? Since there is light in the room in which they're sitting, if so, all the reasons for the obligation have been fulfilled. With respect to honor and enjoyment, they are present. And peace in the home is also. Since now one need not be concerned that they will trip on wood or stone. I've also heard that some authorities are lenient, especially if the matter was close to a situation not in her control, right? Carve loinus, even if something just carve loinus, also would not be a penalty. So therefore, today, if a lady would call and say, Shalom, I forgot to light the candles. What do I do? What's my penalty? So today, You would say, was the lights on in the house? You had some lights, you were able to see? Okay, be more careful. You don't have to light an extra candle. But anyway, our ladies today light 20, 30 candles at most places you go. They light a lot of candles, Baruch Hashem. They were in the Zechut of David HaMelech, Zechut of Miriam this, Zechut of this and this and this. Baruch Hashem, you have 20, 30 candles.
So she could say, Baba, I forgot, but what about my husband?
Ah.
Why he didn't bring it to my
Show 'em back.
This is a man married a long time already. He already knows the story. Okay, let's just review a little bit what we said.
He was at me.
It was, hold on. You have the Yaakov Joseph Shabbat 1 over here?
Yes.
Yeah, you can bring that to me. I'm sorry. Okay, page 98.
6, 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9.
Okay. 98. Okay, says here the laws of Shabbat. Some situations that she's not need to light an extra candle. She forgot to light, but someone else lit them. She forgot to recite the bracha, right? If she lit the candle and said the bracha, no problem. She forgot to light the Shabbat candles, but still had an electric light in the home. Okay? Does not have to light another candle. However, some poskim point out that's only if she, in the case if one turned on the electric lights as time it was possible to have lit the Shabbat candles. If electric lights were already lit earlier, then she will be. But again, that's only some. And we don't go with that. Right? The Or Letzion also says as long as there's some lights in the home, there's no penalty. That's okay. Thank you. Okay. Fine. So to review what we did today, Rabotai. What we did today. We spoke about 2 topics in the candle lighting. We first spoke about that the Gemara brings down that there is a chova, an obligation. So why don't we do it from the back? Go to page, tell you where to look. It's a very nice summary at the end. Go to page 101. On page 101, we're going to review quickly what we learned today. Number 1, we learned an obligation of candle lighting from the Gemara Masechet Shabbat. Rashi said the reason was, Kavod Shabbat, is that the meal should be eaten with light. Okay, Rabbeinu Tam said that the obligation is oneg, okay? But even though it's oneg, you still have to light it for Shabbat, said Rabbeinu Tam. The Rambam brings down lighting candles is both kavod and oneg. The Rambam also wants to define, based on the Gra. The Gra wants to define, based on the Rambam, what is oneg and what is kavod. And the way they bring it down is that whatever you do before Shabbat, for Shabbat, is kavod Shabbat. Whatever you do to enjoy on Shabbat, that is oneg Shabbat. We also saw the source in Gemara Masechet Shabbat that lighting candles for Shalom Bayit, because otherwise someone might trip. The Aruch HaShulchan wanted to say that what you light in the dining room is Kavod Shabbat. What you light in your rooms, in the other rooms we have light, that is Oneg Shabbat. But the Mishnah Berurah and the Ramah both said, even though you might light candles in other rooms, or might have lights in other rooms, the bracha should be said in the dining room. If you have other choices, it should be done in the dining room. How many candles should one light?
But if you're eating there, isn't it only Shabbat while you're eating it? Okay.
The Aruch HaShulchan wanted to say that the honor is honoring with the food, when you with the light, and not tripping or something like that. That's the oneg of the lighting, to be able to walk around and light around the house. How many candles should one light? The Kolba wrote that the custom is to light 2 candles, Zachor v'Shamor, right? The Ramah said the custom in Ashkenaz is 3 or 4 candles. Mishnah Berurah said that 7 candles, 10 candles, Shabbat, the Seder Dibrot, but then he wrote that at a minimum, it has to be 1. At a minimum. That's the minimum a person has to do if he has no other money. Then we saw the source that many people do on page 102. We saw that many people do per people in the household. Okay, usually amount of children. 2, and then the amount of children. We saw that if a person is not home, they don't have to stick to that 20 candles. They can do the minimum of 2, whatever they're given, whatever they have over there.
There's other, what if other bat mitzvah, let's say girls in the family, they light like one for each
So we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that in about 2 weeks. Chacham Ovadia is not very happy with that minhag of people, of girls who are not married, lighting candles.
Why? Really?
I'm saying on top of the 2, let's say the mom does 2.
She can technically light, but first she can definitely not say the bracha. A lot of these girls say the bracha.
No, just go on.
If she's coming to light, there's room to allow that, but it's not really our minhag. It's really came from the Chabad. Right? It's a Lubavitcher thing. If the girls are doing it, and if you tell them not to do it, they're going to get upset and they might take away from their Shabbat. I would say continue to let them do it. Just make sure they don't make a bracha. But if we can instruct our girls that they don't have to do them, they shouldn't be doing that. It's done by the mother of the house. Okay? And even when children come as guests to their parents, they should know that the head of the house, or their mom or mother-in-law, whoever it is, she makes the bracha in the dining room, and no one else is allowed to make the bracha there. We're going to get into that as well. They have their own private room, and it's okay to light there, and it's not any issues of safety or anything like that. They can light there in their room with the bracha, right? But we'll get into that. We're going to get all into that as the weeks go by. Okay, the Maharil brought down that if someone forgot to light, then they have to double the oil, right? The Ramah said you add a candle. The Mishnah Berurah said that it's only if it was, she just didn't get to it. But if it was an onus out of her control, so even if it's karev l'onus, then she would not have to add. Rav Wozner wants to say that it does apply. But Chacham Ovadia, Rav David Ribiat, both say that this penalty today does not apply since we have electric light. So we'll get into the electricity and what you can use and how you can use B'ezrat Hashem next time. All right, let us do a little bit on the Parsha.